Welcome to Building My Legacy podcast. This podcast is designed for leaders and entrepreneurs who want to leave a legacy and will provide strategies that focus upon key elements for legacy creation, determining your desired impact and its benefit, increasing your legacy's reach by engaging key stakeholders, planning, prioritizing, and executing. Here's your host, Dr. Lois Sonstegar.
Welcome, everybody, to today's Building My Legacy podcast. I have with me today Linda Fisk. She is CEO of an interesting group called LeadHERship Global. And so she's gathered women globally that are leaders to come together, share their ideas, and work with one another, support one another in whatever ways they can. And I had the privilege of meeting Linda when we were working on a book, an anthology together, and just grew to respect her wisdom and how she just does work. So I am eager to share Linda with you today. She's also a clinical psychologist, has an incredible background in terms of how she understands things about people because of her training. So, Linda, tell us a little bit about how you got started, and let's start there. Then we'll move into lots of other things.
Lois, thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of your amazing platform. I love this podcast, and I am incredibly honored that I get to be a part of it now. So thank you. And thank you so much for bringing this important conversation to leaders all over the world. I feel like the guests that you've been able to spotlight and the conversations you've been able to navigate have been incredibly powerful and enlightening and very, very valuable. So I hope I'm able to add to the library of incredible conversations that you've been able to steward.
Thank you so much. So how did you get started? I mean, it's quite bold. You started something from scratch, so to speak. And you have really grown it into something quite remarkable.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, I will tell you that I am incredibly honored. I feel very, very privileged that I have the opportunity to be in community with some of the most inspirational, some of the most incredibly power-packed, heart-centered, mission-driven leaders that I've ever met. In LeadHERship Global, we have created a community where women can meet inspirational leaders. They can create lifelong friendships and be surrounded by people who are truly invested in their success. And that was really my vision, is to create a community where women can be inspired and motivated by other women in leadership who will cheer them on, counsel them, support them to greater and greater levels of success and impact. No matter what their purpose is, no matter what their industry is, the purpose of LeadHERship Global is to create and to support personal and professional breakthroughs and to guide women to achieving greater and greater levels of leverage and freedom, both in their career and in their business. And so that was really sort of my mission, my vision, is to support women in leadership all around the globe and to create a global community of world-class women thought leaders and experts that are brought together to collaborate and to facilitate incredible outcomes for each other.
So tell me, so the women come together, they're leaders, they're thought leaders, they're experts often in their fields, right? First of all, how did you find these people? How did you attract them? And then what do you do to keep them?
Yeah, I would say that I saw a sign yesterday that made me giggle, and it said, "Your vibe is your tribe." And I laughed because I thought, what does that say about LeadHERship Global? And I think what happens is you begin with a core group of extraordinary leaders that represent many different industries and many different countries and cultures and backgrounds. And they begin to tell their network and their friends and their colleagues and the people that are important to them about this impactful community of extraordinary women in the world that unleash the full potential of their definition of success. Everyone has a slightly different definition of what it is to be successful, but high-performing, growth-oriented leaders having the opportunity to come together, to problem solve, to generate new ideas, new constructs, new opportunities is really sort of the key to success. And so being able to pull together high-performing, growth-oriented women in leadership in a confidential, supportive, and private community where they get to be fully transparent about the opportunities, the challenges, the obstacles, the roadblocks that they may be facing in their personal life and their professional life, and receive the unbiased, objective counsel of other women who have experienced similar situations in their own business is just priceless. We help members really accelerate their success because they are surrounded by other women who help them define their vision, grow their leadership, expand their influence, and truly leave a lasting legacy.
So do you do it in a mastermind type format, or how do these encounters work?
Yeah, we do that by harnessing kind of the knowledge, the influence, the trust of these high-performing women to stimulate idea exchange, to support creativity, and to provide the resources and tools to accelerate whatever their definition of success is. That happens in trust forums, that happens in leadership boards, in masterminds, in accelerate webinars. So there are a lot of different private, small learning groups. There are huge learning events. There are weekend retreats. There are conferences and summits. There are virtual events. There are a lot of different ways where women can connect. They can share knowledge. They can share influence and resources and tools and connections and networks. But where it all starts is trust. I think that is something that you and I share, Lois, is our recognition of how important it is to create a trust-based relationship and partnership with other people. And so the very first, most fundamental and foundational aspect of LeadHERship Global is that we have learned how to scale trust, whether that's in a small group mastermind, a very intimate, transparent trust forum, or whether that is in a large-scale weekend retreat. We know the importance of being able to nurture, facilitate, and scale trust.
You know what? Trust is such a hard to come by commodity today, right? It seems like we talk about transparency, we talk about authenticity, but it's not very often exhibited in reality. So how have you gone about building that? People want it, they're hungry for it, they're afraid of it.
I think that's true. And I think that there is incredible power of partnerships that are based on mutual respect. And that is formed by extending trust. It starts with a fundamental awareness of some of the key relationships in your life and making the decision that you will extend trust to them. And then through the building and nurturing of that relationship, you determine what level of intimacy and transparency you are going to extend to that other person. But consider the possibility of adopting an entirely new approach to problem solving, or a pioneering approach to cooperation that can truly redesign the relationships in your life based on trust. My feeling is that true power is more than just collaboration. It's about moving to a relationship that involves co-creation. It's about sharing risk. It's about sharing responsibilities, about creating a level of interdependency that creates transformation. And that level of shared risk and interdependency can only be created if there is a trust-based relationship. So true partnership is about identifying shared values, the vision and mission that you both are trying to enact in the world, what that shared value is, and then leveraging the combined strengths of each partner to achieve a level of impact that simply could not have been accomplished independently. So each person recognizes the value that they bring, but also the value the partnership brings, and how together they can create more of a transformational impact on the world than either of them could by themselves.
It's interesting that you say that, because that's really how I define a collaborative relationship, right? You
Right.
really can't get there without trust. And that's often the first question I get asked, Linda, is, but can I trust people that will be in the network that we're going to work on growing and cooperating, partnering in a sense together? So how do you, in a sense, select people so that you have that sense of trust? And how do you know when it's not there? Because
Yes, that's such a great question. So Lois, the very first thing that I would note is in LeadHERship Global, we have a code of conduct that everyone is asked to sign before they can even become a member. And that code of conduct is very much the tenets of trust. It's based on ensuring that every single person will be treated with dignity and respect, regardless of where they come in the world, what their title is, what their industry is, what their religion or their beliefs or their race or their creed or any other places of difference. No matter where they come from, they are to be treated with dignity and respect. The second tenet in that code of conduct is to ensure that every single one recognizes that to be a member of LeadHERship Global, not only is it expected that you treat everyone with dignity and respect, but that you treat every conversation as private and confidential. We make it clear that there is no conversation that happens within LeadHERship Global that is to be discussed, reviewed, quoted, or shared in any way outside of that community. So we make it clear that these relationships within LeadHERship Global are founded on trust and respect. And by doing that, we can foster an explosion of creativity, really create a multiplier effect, because everyone is walking into that community with the same expectations, the same understanding of how we're going to treat each other and how we are going to respect the confidentiality and the privacy of each member, and how every single member, no matter where they come from, no matter what creed and background and belief system they may come from, they all deserve and they are all worthy of respect and dignity.
So you work with these high-powered women. You're one yourself. So as you've traversed this journey of yours, what have you seen are your biggest challenges? What do you see are the big challenges that other women who are leaders have?
Yeah, I think that you're talking about the issues of trust, and you're talking about some of the core values of effective partnership. And within that sort of venue, within that framework of thinking about effective partnerships, collaborative partnerships, I think one of the biggest stumbling blocks is very much what you said, Lois, which is, can I trust? Can I extend trust to this person that I may not know really well? And one of the lessons that I think I've learned is that it's not an either or situation. It's not white and black. I think that oftentimes extending trust happens in steps, and it's a process. And as I see someone living their values, making decisions that are aligned with their purpose, being able to say clearly their intention and be able to walk through that intention with a respectful attitude, with genuine commitment, being able to say what they're going to do and do what they say, to me, then that entitles them to a deeper level of trust, and a deeper level of trust, and a deeper level of trust. So I think that one of the biggest stumbling blocks is that people tend to believe that trust is an either or situation. And in my mind, it is much more of a process, and it's much more of a step-by-step equation, acknowledging the value that every single person brings to the partnership. The power of that partnership is built on harnessing each partner's key strengths and coming to that partnership with good faith, keeping the focus on creating a partnership with, again, a shared vision and a shared definition of success. And then through a process of watching and learning and appreciating that partner, you're able to deepen and scale that sense of trust.
Trust is such an interesting thing, isn't it? Because we want it, we see it grow, and it's so easy to lose.
Yes.
And it's so sad when that happens. And I think most often, and you can tell me if that's your experience as well, it seems to me it tends to be little things where people aren't consistent. They're not being who they say that they are. And so then it puts doubts in your mind, and the doubts begin to build, right? And then trust goes out the window.
I think that's right. And I think that when you do hit those places of questioning, you're just sort of questioning. So maybe there was a concern that was brought up, or maybe someone promised the next step that didn't happen. I think that you do owe it to your partner to be patient, and create space for that partner to break through, not break down. Especially during difficult times, you need to call to attention any sort of breakdown in trust. You need to be honest and open and transparent about concerns or questions that you may be having about the partnership. But it's also appropriate to be patient and persistent. So that means creating space for the partnership to thrive, even if there was a setback or maybe some sort of limitation. I think that even during difficult times, you can say, I'm starting to question this, or I have a concern about this. And that allows the partner to be open, to be honest, to be transparent. And I will tell you, to me, both trust and familiarity are two cornerstones of any partnership, but they have to be built up over time through 1,000 small acts every single day. And so what does that mean? Listen, we're all human, and we're all going to make missteps. We're all going to make mistakes. We're all going to be fallible, but openly sharing information and being able to maintain clear lines of communication, having honest discussions around difficult issues is absolutely paramount to be able to continue down that trust journey.
And I think that's what I like about one of your codes of conduct, that you don't talk about people, you keep the conversation directly with the person, because I think that's also where things fall apart. You have a doubt, you start talking to others, and then it begins to, it's like the dandelion that you blow on, it's seeds that get spread, and it may not be the right message that you're spreading. So I like how you're thinking about that.
I think that it is appropriate to understand, especially if you're entering into some sort of legal partnership with someone else, it's important to understand their reputation. It's important to understand the experience that other people have had in relationship with that person. It's appropriate to sort of do your due diligence and really understand other people's experiences, other people's sorts of relationships with that person. But I do believe that there are a few key factors that have got to be considered to create, but also to operate and sustain an effective partnership. And part of that is to determine if this is the right person at the right time to enter a partnership with. So is that partnership the right choice? Is this person the right person? And sometimes doing that due diligence means asking the hard questions. It's about asking other people what their experience is. It's doing a little bit of research. It's also trying to understand what you're relying on that person to do with you and for you, to understand what the key issues of the partnership really are that you're going to tackle together, and then to determine if the partnership is the right choice. Is it the right person? Is it the right time? And is it the right choice to move forward in relationship with that person? And for some situations, it may be the right person and not the right time, or it may be the right time, but maybe this isn't the right person. So you have to identify what the partnership needs in order to be successful and ask the hard questions, investigate both at the operational and the personnel level. Ask about relationships, situations of either a direct report or a supervisor or a partner or a friend. How do they deal with those kinds of relationships? And assess the risks and rewards of that relationship moving forward. What will that partnership look like in 2 years, in 5 years, in 10 years? What if that person is a great friend, but they're not going to be a great boss? What if they are a great coworker, but they're going to be not a great direct report? It's good for you to recognize what you're stepping into before you make that commitment.
Always doing your homework first is so important, isn't it? And I think a lot of times it's when we haven't done that we get burned, and then we go, wow, what went wrong? We feel victimized, we feel whatever, and it could have been prevented.
That's right.
Linda, as you look at what you're doing, where next? What's your dream for what you're working with, for LeadHERship, or for other things? Because you are such a contributor, you're such a forward thinker. What's next? What's your dream?
Wow, that is such a big question, Lois. Thank you. Much like, the question you asked earlier about what have I learned and what are the stumbling blocks and where have I made a misstep? And golly, I could talk for hours about the mistakes I've made and the missteps I've made. So I tried to limit that conversation to the idea of partnerships. And same thing with this question. I think I could talk for hours about ideally what I'd love to see in the world, the kind of impact I'd like to see LeadHERship Global make in the lives of women, the way that I would love for women to be able to step into their power, for us to be able to create substantial change in the lives of women all over the world through, I did a TEDx talk recently called Ladder Economics, and the impact that you can have on economies all over the world by lifting women from a place of subsistence to being able to find physical safety, being able to find psychological safety, being able to have a voice in decision-making, and then ultimately being able to be in a decision-making role, whether that's politics or business or any sort of industry. That kind of transition, moving from being able to find clean water and safe homes for their children to being able to be educated and be able to hold a job, to being able to really create significant impact by changing the priorities that governments and organizations are focused on, to include taking care of elderly, taking care of children, all the way to being able to not only have a seat at the decision-making table, to be in a leadership position, to be the chairman of a board, or to be in a board seat. And that is the kind of ladder economics that I would wish for all women all over the world. But for LeadHERship Global right now, trying to bring the conversation back to this idea of how to create powerful partnerships, I want women to be able to find partnerships that emphasize transformation over transaction. I want them to begin to realize the power that they hold to achieve the scale and depth of impact, to create real substantial change, to be almost a catalyst for real and substantive change, not just in the lives of one person or one family or one community, but truly entire regions of the world and the world itself. So I want to develop a network of people who are committed to creating impact, creating change, and to hold each other accountable, to be able to cheer each other on, and to be able to provide objective counsel and to provide the kind of resources and tools needed to accelerate success. I want a community of women that hold each other accountable, but also learn from mistakes, and that still allow for that level of acceptance and forgiveness to cheer them on to the next level of success.
It's such a wonderful concept, right? And I think that women are often more capable of doing it because they've taken care of family squabbles, right, with children. And so you get used to that give and take. There's mistakes, you forgive, you move on. But there's a correction that you also see that goes with that. So in your opinion, as you have worked with women, as you've sat in key roles in your work, what do you see that women bring to the table that's different? Is it different? We hear it's different. What do you see as different?
I think that women have some unique qualities and characteristics generally that set them apart. And one of the most important, I think, leadership traits that is a hallmark of an incredibly effective leader, regardless of gender, is empathy. Mm-hmm. But it does turn out that women, study after study, have been shown to have a greater natural inclination to empathy than most men. So women have a natural reservoir of empathy, being able to step into the situation of other people around them and feel very intimately and genuinely the situation that they're going through, and being able to navigate and problem solve with that person to find a win-win situation. And I think it's that level of empathy and also that level of self-awareness that differentiate women, especially women in leadership, perhaps. And I will tell you that, empathy, self-awareness, those kind of soft skills, that kind of emotional intelligence that is often connected to women in leadership, I think now has been embraced for leaders regardless of gender, regardless of how they self-identify their gender. I think that most people would say those are important hallmarks of leadership regardless. That sense of self-awareness, being a lifetime learner, recognizing that you may not always have all the answers, but you're curious, you are a lifetime learner, you want to investigate, you want to learn, and you're humble enough to recognize that you may not have all the answers. And it's that level of self-awareness and humility, but also that level of empathy and working with other people to come up with a really breakthrough new idea or solution, or to be able to problem solve in innovative ways, that I think really does differentiate women in leadership typically from men.
I think that's so true. And I think one of the things that women often talk about is their struggle to keep that as they work in the world, the business world. But I hear that from men increasingly too, that there's something that's going on that they find threatens that need, that desire for empathy and relatedness.
Yeah. And I think that, every leader, at least the most successful leaders that I certainly have known and worked with, they have really very intentionally, very purposefully embarked on a continuous discovery of themselves and of others, of their industry, of their unique expertise that helps inform their perspective over time. Not only are you embarking on a journey of, creating new skill sets, new aptitudes, new areas of interest, new passions, but at every single stage of your career, the most inspirational leaders that I've ever known or worked with learn how to create sustainable impact and influence because they are lifetime learners that are very humble, curious, and they are very, very passionate about learning how to better serve others, how to genuinely support the career advancement and the overall engagement of those around them. They become incredibly mindful of the opportunity as well as the responsibility that they have to not only serve their own advancement, but to serve other people. And by serving other people, helping them break through to that next level of success, to develop that new skill like financial management or negotiation or public speaking, based on that person's goals, based on their career trajectory. Right. It also deepens that leader's appreciation for their own ability and for the people around them.
It's so true. So true. Linda, our time is almost up. What have we not covered that you would like the audience to know?
I'm not sure that there's anything necessarily that anyone needs to know, but I think a good reminder as we start this new year of 2022 is to keep in mind that really fulfilling feeling of giving back, of contributing to others. It's absolutely unparalleled. I find that true meaning and true purpose. And as you set your goals for 2023, think about how you're better able to support, nurture, and really accelerate the success of other people. How you're able to better the lives of the people around you, your loved ones, the people in your community, the lives of the people maybe somewhere else in the world. But I have found that meaning never comes from what you get, it comes from what you give. So finding ways to give back, to make an impact in the world is really where you are going to find your joy and fulfillment in 2023.
I love that. Meaning comes from what you give back, not what you get. And I think we get so busy collecting and getting that we forget that we'll lose ourselves if that's what we focus on. So thank you for that. Real meaning comes from what you give. Linda, thank you so much for being with us today and with our Building My Legacy audience.
Thank you, Lois. Again, as I said, such a privilege to be here. I love your podcast, and I love the idea of building a legacy based on, again, understanding your purpose, your power, your mission, your vision. I love the conversations that you bring to everyone every single week, really lifting them up and giving them a bigger vision of what's possible. So thank you.
You are so welcome. And you are such an inspiration. So thank you, thank you, thank you for your role. And those of you who are listening to our podcast today, thank you for being with us. Remember to visit our website at buildtomorrow.com with the number 2, and Start with Collaboration is our second website. And we will have information about Linda in our show notes. Feel free to connect with her if you would like to do so. And please remember, she has a brilliant group tribe that she's built. It's called LeadHERship Global. So look that up. And if you are in the frame of mind to do so, join that group.
Thank you so much, Lois.
You are welcome. Thank you.
You've been listening to Building My Legacy podcast with Dr. Lois Sonstegar. To book your appointment with Dr. Sonstegar, visit www.buildtomorrow.com.